I'm going to jump around a little bit. We've heard in a lot of campaigns that, during this campaign season, I should say, that Alaska has the highest unemployment in the country, and that's a terrible thing. I don't think anybody would argue with that, but I just wanted to point out this graph because it, going back to 2003, shows that things have changed more outside than in Alaska. The state has always been in that 7 to 8% range on unemployment, which definitely isn't good, but it's much more steady because of the seasonal variation. Every year there's high times of unemployment and times of low unemployment in the summer. So just wanted to point that out. Now, an interesting number I did come across recently was Alaska's labor force has recently been declining. Just in the past few months, it was for years in the 362 to 363,000 person range, and just in July to September of this year, it dropped to 356,000. Folks I talk to say that's probably because people can find work in the lower 48, which with a smaller labor force could also distort unemployment numbers. Just want to point these things out. And here's, building on what a slide Scott had, there is a lot of activity going on in the slope. So hopefully those unemployment numbers for Alaska will be going down soon. This is a map I stole from the Department of Oil and Gas. Something they put out periodically every few months just to update what's going on the slope. You can see each one of the little boxes is for something one of the companies is doing, obviously. In the past few years, those had said they were doing seismic exploration or had bought a few leases or sold some things. Now it says Hillcorp is drilling 50 to 70 wells. E&I, like Scott mentioned, is drilling long reach wells into federal waters from a man-made island in state waters. Oil Search, which is now operator of the big APICC unit, which Scott mentioned, the Nanashuk project. They're drilling more wells this winter. All the work ConocoPhillips is doing. A little Anchorage company, Great Bear Petroleum, has partnered with a few Australian companies to drill some more exploration wells around the Putu in the area of the Putu and Stony Hill wells that Scott had talked about. There's a sudden resurgence, and last Friday the Department of Labor had a conference in this same room talking about a labor shortage coming in Alaska, and it seems sort of funny to think about, but it could really be happening because there is this wave of activity on not only on the slope, but at some of the major mining prospects that the state has had for many years, and we've heard about, could be coming, going from prospect stage into development in the next couple of years. And this is just a short list of the job prospects that could be available within the next 3 to 4 years. ConocoPhillips GMT2 development is a pretty sure bet. They tell me they're going to be starting work this winter. Exactly what they're doing, again, talk to Scott. And then Liberty's Hillcorp prospect is 60 to 70,000 barrels of oil. They're making a whole new island off of the North Slope. They say they're going to be able to do that with 200 construction workers. We'll see. There isn't a definitive timeline on that one yet, but everything Hillcorp does, they seem to do pretty quickly, and they just got their approval from the feds on that, so it should be moving along here pretty quick, one would expect. There's the Nanashuk Nanashuk and Pickup project that Oil Search is working on. That's going to be 1,500 people, they estimate, in their permit documents. And then Donlin Gold just got their record of decision from the Bureau of Land Management. They're debating what gold prices, we talk so much about oil, they need for that project. They've said $1,200 an ounce might not be enough, but things are looking up for them. And then regardless of what you think about it, Pebble could be another 2,000 construction jobs in roughly the same time frame. And then there's Willow, which several thousand is as specific as they'll get. It's a few years out yet. And then we can't forget about Anwar. And all of this is without the Alaska LNG project, which the Labor Department estimates is going to be 12,000 direct construction jobs and untold numbers of indirect and support jobs. And this next slide is one that I stole from Neil Freed, who is the state economist who does these sorts of talks frequently. But it's just a reminder that oil prices fluctuate a lot. Obviously, we know that. Ryan Lance from ConocoPhillips recently said, the bigger the price spike, the bigger the crash is going to be. So that companies have to be able to adjust. But when we got used to $100 oil and it fell to 30, which is definitely pretty low, but this slide points out the inflation-adjusted average oil price. Now, that's a mouthful. But if you just look at the $54 figure right in the middle, that's the average oil price in basically the modern-day oil market since 1980. So $54 was a situation $54 put Alaska in a pretty tough situation a couple years ago, but really it was more the average as opposed to the anomaly. We got a little too used to the anomaly maybe.